The best ever field to contest the Hornsby-to-Swansea Cycle Classic snaked its way out of Sydney this morning. Among them, more than a dozen Olympic riders who are using this event to fine-tune for the Sydney Games. But anyone can come unstuck in road racing. The King of the Mountain crown went to Island champion David McCann. Then it was purely a race to the finish line, with small breakaway groups getting some distance from the pack. With around 30 kilometres left of the 189k journey, Colombian Marlon Perez made his move, blasting away on his own. The 24-year-old hit the streets of Swansea with a comfortable lead, allowing him to savour the win. The road race title adds to his Criterium win here on Friday night. Former winner Steve Williams beat McCann in a sprint for the minor placings. A packed number one sports ground, and while Lakes missed their first shot at points, they didn't miss Darren Forward. The Waratah halfback flattened early. The Cheetahs just turned the other cheek. But Burke's hit and spin mission led to the first points, with Paul Allardyce finishing off. Darren Forward got Waratah doing just that, a solo effort from him, and it was 6-all. Defence was the key for the Cheetahs, saving a try at one end and setting one up at the other. When Brendan George was bundled into touch, the Cheetahs took 3 tackles before Forward was at it again, 12-6 at half-time. Paul Allardyce started the second term like the first, with a try. Stu Collins, however, would be lucky to remember anything after he was hit high. It got Waratah another 2 points, but the real blow was landed by winger Craig Foggo. When he stole Lake's ball and ran 70 metres to score, the Seagulls' premiership hopes virtually went with him. Lakes got back within 6, but it was Waratah the winners and a fitting finale for Darren Forward.
Talk to fisheries and waterways and they'll tell you boats like these are destroying fragile seagrasses on the lake's bottom.
They chew it up, and some of the varieties of seagrass don't regrow very quickly, and so you can actually destroy the seagrass and it won't come back.
As a result, Waterways has drawn up a plan of the lake identifying sections where future mooring applications will be denied and existing moorings will be removed when their owners have finished with them. Old salts from the fleet at Swansea Flats say they haven't been consulted and fear future generations of boaties will be denied the convenience of local moorings.
Mainly the way that it was secretly done, no publicity so that people could go and peruse it at the libraries.
These particular moorings have been here a long while. The percentage of the bay they're taking up is very small, and I can't see the harm they're doing, and they're very convenient for the people that live around here.
Some of those places may not be available for the future, based purely and simply on the fact we need to protect the lake.
Hey, these boat owners, they try and protect the lake.
Waterways is seeking feedback on the draft. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
12 months into a 4-year, $300 million contract to build and maintain Sydney's new generation of suburban trains, the Millennium Train is taking shape. The Millennium Train replaces the Tangara. It's bigger and more comfortable.
In peak hour time traffic in Sydney, you'll have over 1,000 people on one of these 4-car trains.
50 Clyde engineering workers are building the carriage shells. At its peak, 150 workers, many of them former Ganinan employees, will complete the fit-out. 81 carriages will be built in Stage 1 of the Millennium Project. Clyde Engineering is keen to secure Stage 2.
We'd be very excited if we heard any progress on a decision on Stages 2 and 3, and that obviously would provide continuity of work on this site for the workforce and for the Newcastle area.
Stage 2 is due to be awarded within 12 months. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Matthew Johns, This Is Your Life. More than 1,000 fans packed the Newcastle Workers Club to celebrate the career of a champion. Among those sad to see Matty leaving, the chief, Paul Harrigan.
We'll miss you for a couple of years. I know you'll come back and I hope you'll coach. Love you, mate.
Matthew rose through the ranks of Schoolboy League before embarking on a 10-year career with the Knights that included the club's glorious 97 grand final win. This year, the club blamed salary cap restrictions for not offering him a new contract, forcing the 5/8 to seek employment elsewhere. Among his staunchest supporters, his family.
I love me boy very much, and what I said that day, I will stick by till the day I die. I still don't believe that he should have been cut from the club.
Andrew Joey Johns, sad to see his brother go.
Yeah, sometimes you don't realise how much things mean to you till they're gone, and I know that Matty's going to be a great success in England, but it's a shame we're not going to be together.
With wife Trish by his side, the crowd was given a glimpse of Matthew, the father.
Jack down the bottom, Cooper on the right, and young Samuel on the left, and that's me dressed as Banana.
Tony Butterfield, who also leaves the club this year, showed off his dancing style before an oil painting of Matthew was auctioned for charity. Johns leaves for England to play with Super League side Wigan after Christmas. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Community-funded patrols launched to fight crime in Swansea have won political support, but not from everywhere. The member for Lake Macquarie has a different view.
Well, I really don't think that shopkeepers in any community should have to do that. I'd like to see that the crime rates in our community were low enough that we didn't have to see that kind of action take place.
Tony Bale owns 3 commercial properties in Toronto and suffers some damage to them once a month on average. For him, more police on the street are essential.
I really think it comes back fair and square onto the state government. The local representative here, the local member, you know, he's aware of what's going on.
His local member, Jeff Hunter, says 23 new police have been assigned to Lake Macquarie since December, but agrees more are needed to combat crimes which aren't being reflected in statistics.
There is a problem. I want local shopkeepers to come to me and tell me about that so we can fight together to get additional police.
But there is a catch-22, with business people like Tony Bale saying reporting problems in the past hasn't helped.
You put in writing and you get a letter back that says, if you're lucky, a letter that says, oh, the statistics show that we're doing well. Well, I don't report all the crimes, can't be bothered, and most people are in the same boat. We're just not going to waste our time.
Multiple gold medalist Matt Ryan knows all about the Olympics. Sydney will be his 4th Games. His campaign starts tomorrow in the dressage element of the 3-day event. The Ollie Roos campaign started Wednesday night against Italy, but Newcastle's Clayton Zane is expected to get his first start in tomorrow's match against Nigeria. All 4 of the Hunters Matildas, Alison Foreman, Sonny Hughes, Cheryl Salisbury and Bridget Starr, are expected to play against Sweden in their second-round match also tomorrow night. Newcastle Superfish Justin Norris is in the pool on Sunday for the heats and finals for the 400-metre individual medley before backing up on Monday for the butterfly heats. Julie Towers and the Hockey Roos play their first match on Sunday against Great Britain. The softballers start Sunday as well against New Zealand, with Newcastle's Natalie Ward and Musselbrook's Sue Fairhurst in that team. Lake Macquarie World Champion 49er sailors Chris Nicholson and Daniel Phillips start their racing on Monday, while Daniel Burke's Australian 8 rowing crew hit the water the same day. Lake Macquarie kayakers Peter Scott and Shane Suska don't paddle in their K4 team until Tuesday of the second week. The wait is even longer for Karen Perkins. After only winning selection earlier this month, the former Edgeworth-based hammer thrower doesn't compete until Wednesday the 27th, 5 days before the games finish.
Another bank branch in regional Australia bites the dust, this time the National Australia Bank at Mayfield. The closure follows a reduction in over-the-counter transactions. Businesses who use the bank are livid.
And there's no loyalty at all. I'm talking about traders of 20 to 40 years who've dealt with the bank. Very sad.
It's a slap in the face for branch customer of 35 years David Keegan, who'll now have to drive several kilometres to the nearest national branch in Hamilton.
It's a small business, and for me to leave here and to go all the way to Hamilton, I'd have to go by car. It would take a fair while, and I can't afford to be away from the business for that amount of time.
The closure comes despite pleas from the Mayfield Chamber of Commerce for the National to remain.
A bank that is making such a level of profit can surely justify retaining some presence in an area.
Meanwhile, another closure, around 30 workers from Newcastle Galvanising losing their jobs. The company has been bought out by Industrial Galvanising at Hexham.
Emily Paul is an inspiration at 90. She's just had a poem published in America. What happened to her in Newcastle yesterday was pretty low. As she wheeled her shopping home, an overweight man in his 40s or 50s offered to help and began asking questions about her. Friendly and trusting, she told him too much. He unpacked her groceries on the porch and left. The police think he identified her as an easy target to his partner, who appeared next.
By the time I had my key in the door, another fella, wasn't him, it was another fella, said to me, "Your house has just been robbed."
He followed her inside, asking where she kept her money to check if there was any missing. Police believe he walked ahead of her, making the house look like it was ransacked before he collected her cash. Emily realises she was foolish and would change things if she could.
I would have stood there, I wouldn't have unlocked the door, and I would have just stood there, and in time I would have just said, "Excuse me, I'm sorry, you will have to go, I'm going indoors." I would have said that.
We would just ask that any elderly people who are befriended by strangers in the street to take a bit of caution, and most certainly not to let any strangers into their house for whatever reason.
Residents raised a raft of problems in Newcastle Council. One concern, whether the site of the proposed rehabilitation centre had been properly subdivided.
Well, I don't know whether that's an issue that the Salvation Army can comment on. I think that would be an issue that would have to be taken up with the zoning people of the council.
But residents admit they have questions about what a drug rehabilitation centre will mean for Ellamore Vale.
That also is a problem. Yeah, and until they can satisfactorily answer our questions and address the real fears of the community, then that will always be a concern.
Though they agree drug rehabilitation services are important for the community.
And we cared enough about it to investigate alternative sites for them, and we were actually contacted by Gretley Colliery, who offered to sell them some land off the Link Road. They refused to look at that option.
I don't have the information to comment, but I really don't know whether that offer was made.
Residents are now forming a working party to go over the issues raised, while the Salvation Army is responding to requests for information to complete its development application.
When it's man against beast, it's the beast that normally ends up rubbing the rider's nose in the dirt. Matching wits with an angry Brahman bull isn't everyone's idea of a great day out, but for the 800 competitors at the Stroud Rodeo, it's a way of life.
A lot of cowboys are here this weekend from all over the country, and it's one of the biggest, and coming the end of the season, coming into the national finals, they're going to want to be winning dollars to get there, so it's one of the biggest on the circuit.
They breed 'em tough in the Hunter, 10-year-old Brady Grant hitting the dirt early in the Poddy Calf division.
What do you do to try and do your best?
Just hang on.
Meantime, over at Cessnock, they were riding camels today at the Cessnock Camel Cup Carnival. Guided by female jockeys, Badori Lass finished first after a spirited last-minute run from Doubtfire and Captain Starlight. Gem Cutter Jack finished a distant last.
Just after 10 o'clock this morning, the elderly driver lost control of his Rolls-Royce on this straight stretch of road. It continued along in a roadside storm water drain, then hit a culvert before ending up near an adjacent paddock. The 73-year-old from Sydney was killed, but police are waiting for a post-mortem to determine whether or not he died as a result of injuries caused by the accident.
Given the fact that it's an elderly gentleman, we might have to wait for some post-mortem results to determine what was the case in the car, whether he's had some sort of medical problem before the accident or whether it's just a matter of inattention.
His elderly wife, a passenger in the vehicle, was airlifted to the John Hunter Hospital with multiple injuries. It's the second such accident on the region's roads in the last 2 days. Brooke Webster, NBN News.
I was able to get back into the industries where I'd served my time, apprenticeship, and film in there, which was a fantastic opportunity because
When a hang glider crash in April 98 left Peter O'Loughlin without arms and legs, he vowed that one day he would return to the sport he loved.
Many said he could never drive a car, but yet he had his car kitted out for him to drive it, and he retained his licence. Many said he couldn't fly again, but he was determined that he would prove them wrong.
But after 2 successful flights at Singleton Airstrip yesterday, he crashed his specially modified glider and died soon after.
He had 2 flights before he crashed. He had a big smile on his face. Yeah, he'd achieved a goal.
Seen here running to the aid of a fellow pilot at a past championship, Pete was always one of the last to take off after helping others.
Almost all he talked about, and apart from the normal family things, but his flying was his life.
He lived to soar with the eagles, and this was the view he loved best. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
So you want to make sure you're protected, good helmets, elbow pads, knee pads, so when you do fall, you can protect yourself and learn to fall the right way.
Blazes broke out across the region today, kept alive by summery conditions. Residents at Blackwell's Park prepared for the worst as firefighters worked tirelessly to keep their worst fears at bay. But a sudden gust of wind and flames were dangerously close to homes. It was all hands on deck when the fire closed in and resources were stretched. There was smoke on the horizon again at Holmesville, west of Newcastle, where yet another blaze ripped through bushland. Meanwhile, north of Seahampton, rural firefighters spent the day trying to contain 9 outbreaks, all believed to be deliberately lit, covering 200 hectares. Fire authorities are now calling for public assistance in identifying offenders as an early fire season heats up and the danger mounts.
People don't realise that the Act provides now for penalties of up to $110,000 or 5 years imprisonment for people who light fires on other people's land, and we ask the community to keep their eye out.
Brooke Webster, NBN News Late Edition.
Visiting the doctor used to mean dealing directly with the person who owned the practice. But now corporations are weighing into the healthcare industry, buying up surgeries.
Look, I think it's a real threat for the community, not just for GPs. I think for-profit corporatisation with anonymous shareholders is a deep threat to good quality general practice.
While many practices are being corporatised in Sydney and other capital cities, the doctors in the Hunter are so far resisting selling up.
There's certainly been nibbles and we're deeply concerned about it. And what we want to preserve is high quality general practice, but practice that serves this community and is owned within this community.
Dr Arne Sprogus believes there is an alternative. He believes cooperatives modelled on the after-hours service at Maitland Hospital could be the answer.
We believe the alternative is a cooperative. There's a long tradition of cooperatives in the Hunter, and that's GPs working together to provide services within this community, but owned by GPs in this community.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
With another decision deadline come and gone, Newcastle Lord Mayor John Tate has joined calls for Soccer Australia to reveal what's going on.
I hope this is not about eliminating one team from the competition. Some people have suggested to me that that's the case, but I hope it's not that. Newcastle deserves a national soccer team.
While the governing body categorically denies any hidden agendas, John Tate isn't the only mayor worried about the fate of the region's NSL side. Among the others, Lake Macquarie's John Kilpatrick, who's offered to help the Northern New South Wales Soccer Federation should Soccer Australia decide to use its fallback option.
We don't want to lose the Breakers. We've lost the Falcons and the Wildfires from the Hunter region. And basically all I've said to them is, look, if we can help in any way, make sure you call on us.
More discussions were held today between NSL and Breakers bosses, with a decision not expected until after a Soccer Australia board meeting. Meanwhile, it's believed none of the 14 players who've left in the past week have signed with other clubs.
Late yesterday, residents at Blackwell's Park near Lake Macquarie watched the flames rise up around them.
With the oxygen on that hill, it whipped up around about 60 mile an hour. I've never seen anything like it.
A change of wind direction and suddenly a number of blazes, most believed to be deliberately lit, leapt out of control. Ron desperately tried to fight off the flames with a garden hose. Today, the smouldering remains told the rest of the story.
It just goes to show you how quick it can come up. Within 10 minutes, you could be gone. We've had 10 years of work there, and 10 minutes you could be finished.
An aerial attack over bushland between Wakefield and Terralba picked up, where last night's ground-level efforts left off. While the major outbreaks were contained, there were flare-ups in already blackened bushland late this afternoon. The hot weather and warm winds also sparked new blazes across the region.
We're on a fire weather alert, and total fire ban is in force until midnight tonight, mainly due to the weather conditions that could lead to serious outbreaks.
Fire authorities are continuing to monitor the situation into the evening. Brooke Webster, NBN News.
Despite boasting spectacular scenery and fine wines, both Port Stephens and the Hunter Valley are yet to draw large numbers of visitors. It's been a slow start to the school holiday period, nothing compared to what tourism operators had hoped for.
Things have been a little bit quiet, but that was mainly around the opening ceremony. But in the last couple of days, things have really picked up, and we're starting to see a filter of overseas people starting to come through.
But with 56 million US viewers watching the opening ceremony alone, things could pick up after the Games. According to the State Chamber of Commerce, 40% of overseas tourists plan to stay in the country for more than 4 weeks.
Australia is a long way away, and to make the benefit of seeing most of the country, I think you need to be here for 2 or 3 weeks at least. So hopefully they'll spend most of their time outside of the Sydney area and come and see what the real country's all about.
And with the currency still sitting around and below the 54 US cent mark, souvenir shopping is even more attractive.
The dollar how it is, it becomes a very cheap product for them, and they're getting very good value for money.
Tanya Carlisle, NBN News.
Telecommunications are a vital link between regional Australia and the major centres, but the New South Wales Farmers Association says the latest price hikes mean remote communities will be paying extra for the services cities take for granted. From next Monday, some day rates and economy rates go up. One of the biggest jumps is for residents 50 to 85 kilometres from a designated zone. Instead of paying 9.9 cents a minute, they'll be paying 12 cents when they call after 7 p.m. But Telstra says even with the rise, its calls are still competitive and urges consumers to take advantage of its special capped rates. But that's unlikely to help farmers and remote communities who need to make STD calls to larger cities and towns during the day.
Local residents in regional Australia have already been hit hard by petrol price increases. Now they're going to get a double slug by massive increases in telephone charges.
The Hunter Economic Development Corporation is shocked by the decision to increase prices and says it will also have a social impact on families. But it's hoping Telstra's current zoning inquiry will be the light at the end of the tunnel.
They're looking at ways of reducing the impact in rural Australia, but we won't find out what's happening with that until November. But hopefully there will be some advantage.